You're listening to Nora and Noah Decode the Day, where markets meet meaning every morning.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping right into Apple's latest quarterly earnings.
Yep, we've got the report, got the analysis.
And we're going to really get under the skin of what's going on with them, what it means for their future, and what it means for you.
Exactly. Think of this as the quick path to understanding the really crucial bits in this report. We're digging into the numbers, pulling out the key stuff.
Finding those aha moments.
Right, the things that might not be obvious at first glance.
Okay, so first impressions. Apple's overall sales and earnings, they actually beat estimates.
Which sounds good on the surface.
It does. But the market reaction was a bit cautious. Shares dipped a little after the news.
Mm-hmm. And that often tells you there's something else going on under the hood. Investors see the headline numbers, sure, but they're maybe worried about what's coming next.
Deeper anxieties, maybe.
Yeah.
So let's unpack that. What's the first big potential worry spot here?
Well, one area that definitely jumps out from the report is China.
China. Always huge for Apple. A key growth market for years.
Exactly. But the report shows sales there actually decreased, down 2.3%, landing at $16 billion.
And that missed what analysts were predicting, right? They expected closer to $16.8 billion.
That's right. So, yeah, it definitely signifies a slowdown, a bit of a stumble, like you said, in a really important region.
So why? What's happening over there?
Well, it looks like a few things are hitting them at once. First off, competition. It's getting really intense.
From the local brands?
Yeah. Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, they're strong, and they're really connecting with Chinese consumers. Plus, you've got some government restrictions.
On using foreign tech in certain workplaces.
Exactly. That's bound to have an impact.
Okay, so stronger local rivals, government headwinds, and then there's the whole tariff situation, isn't there? Apple makes so much stuff in China.
Precisely. That makes them very vulnerable to trade tensions, tariffs. It's a big risk factor. And on top of all that,
There's more.
there's this perception, maybe growing, especially in China, that Apple isn't quite leading on innovation in every area anymore. Well, think about it. Apple Intelligence isn't available there yet, and they don't have a foldable phone while competitors do.
Right, foldables are a thing now.
So it contributes to this feeling, maybe, that some local brands aren't just competing on price, but maybe even on cutting-edge features now. It could be a real shift.
That's a tough mix. Local competition, government rules, tariff risks, and an innovation perception issue. So what's Apple doing about it? They must have a plan.
They definitely seem aware. The report mentions plans to launch AI services in China soon. Importantly, they're partnering with local giants.
Like Alibaba and Baidu.
Exactly. That localized approach is key over there. And interestingly, there's talk of a foldable iPhone maybe next year.
So they are planning to get into the foldable game.
Looks like it. Addressing that gap.
Okay, local AI partnerships, future foldable. Let's switch gears slightly back to those tariffs. You mentioned the risk. Did the report quantify the impact?
It did. Apple actually expects costs to go up by about $900 million this quarter because of tariffs.
Wow, $900 million. That's substantial.
It really is. And Tim Cook specifically called out trade and other international disputes as a risk. It shows how much this geopolitical stuff is hitting their bottom line.
And yet, Cook didn't say anything about raising prices for consumers, even with potential new tariffs on electronics.
No comment on that yet. Playing it cool, maybe. But they are clearly making moves to lessen the blow. Yep. Restructuring things.
Their supply chain, you mean?
Yeah.
Moving production.
Exactly. It's a big shift. India is apparently now making half the iPhones needed for the U.S.
Half? That's huge.
It is. And for things like Apple Watches, AirPods, iPads, Macs going to the U.S., more and more production is moving to Vietnam.
Vietnam has lower tariffs than China.
Generally, yes. So it's a strategic diversification. So spreading the risk, trying to manage those costs.
It's like this giant global chess game they're playing. Navigate the tariffs, shift production.
Absolutely. And funny thing, the report noted this temporary sales bump recently.
Oh yeah, why?
Apparently, some customers bought ahead of time because they were worried about prices going up due to tariffs.
So anxiety about future tariffs actually boosted sales in the short term. That's ironic.
It is. Shows how sensitive consumers are to this stuff, though. It's not just an internal Apple problem.
Right. It affects buying behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk product performance. iPhones. Sales were up, but Only just.
Yeah, less than 2% year-over-year growth. So $46.8 billion. It beat estimates, but that growth is definitely slower than we've seen in the past.
Feels a bit flat. Any reason why?
Well, looking at the latest models, especially the non-pro ones, they weren't radically different from the previous year.
Not a huge leap forward.
Kind of incremental, so maybe fewer people felt that urgent need to upgrade, That could be slowing things down. Some analysts feel it's been more incremental updates lately, not the big jumps.
And then they introduced the iPhone 16.
Replacing the NC.
Right, and it's more expensive.
Yeah, $599, replacing the $429 EC, and that's pricier than some competitors in that space.
Could be a tough sell.
Potentially. It raises questions about their mid-range strategy. But Cook did make a point of highlighting the new chip inside it.
The C1 modem, their own chip.
Exactly. He called it the start of an important journey. Suggests they want more control over their core tech, which could pay off long-term, better integration, maybe better power,
Bringing more tech in-house? Okay. And there are rumors of bigger iPhone changes later this year. Maybe a thinner design?
Yeah, hints of a more significant refresh coming, which could maybe spark more excitement.
We'll see. Now, AI. You mentioned Apple Intelligence not being in China. The report acknowledged struggles here.
It did pretty directly. They said they're facing challenges in AI and the delay of the new Siri version.
Why was that delayed again?
They said it needed more work to meet Apple's quality standards, which, okay, but it highlights they might be finding it hard to move as fast as others in AI.
And in today's world, AI is just crucial. You can't really afford to lag behind.
Especially not in a market like China. It's a significant gap right now. This Siri delay might point to bigger issues, maybe cultural or structural, in innovating quickly in AI compared to others.
Right. Okay, shifting again. Other parts of the business. Services, App Store, Apple TV, plus all that. How did that do?
Pretty strong, actually. Grew 12% to $26.7 billion. Met expectations. It's still a reliable growth engine.
Good news there.
Yeah.
But are there clouds on the horizon?
There are potential ones, yeah. That recent App Store ruling, the one saying they have to allow third-party payment options.
Right, they could definitely hit their revenue stream.
It could. And then the U.S. government is trying to break up their search deal with Google, another potential hit.
Those are pretty big regulatory challenges.
Significant headwinds. And it probably explains why Apple didn't give any future growth guidance for services. They cited uncertainty.
That kind of says it all, doesn't it? Okay, but Macs and iPads, you mentioned they did well.
Surprisingly well, yeah. Both beat estimates. Mac revenue was $7.95 billion.
Why the boost there?
Likely the new MacBook Air and Mac Studio models, they seem to have landed well.
And iPads, also better than expected.
Yep, $6.4 billion. Probably helped by refreshed lower-end models and the newer Air. And there's buzz about a new iPad Pro with an M5 chip coming later this year.
So new hardware seems to be driving sales in those categories. Good for
Got it.
them. But what about wearables, home, and accessories?
Yeah, that category's still struggling a bit. $7.52 billion, which was below estimates.
Consistently underwhelming there, it seems. Why do you think that is? They have the brand, the ecosystem.
It's a good question. It just seems they haven't quite cracked the code for consistent, massive growth beyond the watch in that broader category. Something's missing, maybe.
An area to keep an eye on then. Okay, lastly, the money moves. Big share buyback announced.
Huge. Another $100 billion authorized. And they bumped the quarterly dividend up 4% to 26 cents a share.
Classic Apple. Trying to keep shareholders happy, return cash, bolster confidence.
Exactly. Standard playbook for them when
Right.
they have loads of cash.
Despite that, the stock was still down quite a bit for the year leading up to this report, like 15%.
Yeah, it suggests those financial moves, while nice for investors, aren't enough on their own to completely calm the nerves.
The underlying worries we talked about, China, tariffs, AI speed, they still weigh heavier.
It seems so. Investors are probably looking for more concrete signs of how Apple plans to navigate those bigger challenges and drive future growth. The buybacks help, but they don't solve the strategic questions.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for you, the learner. It's a really complex picture from Apple this quarter.
Definitely mixed. On one hand, sales and profits are still massive, beating expectations in some areas.
But on the other hand, you've got these significant headwinds blowing. China slowdown, the tariff costs and uncertainty, and this pressure to really step up in AI.
Right. The financial moves like buybacks are there to reassure, but those fundamental concerns haven't just disappeared. Investor caution seems understandable.
So understanding all this, It gives you real insight into the kinds of challenges even a company like Apple faces, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You see the impact of global politics, fierce competition, the constant need to innovate. It all comes together here. Whether you follow tech or investing or just the broader economy, these dynamics are super relevant.
It's pretty fascinating to see a giant like Apple juggling all these things at once. Shows you how tough it is at the top.
No kidding. Constant pressure.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on until next time. We see Apple shifting manufacturing away from China, building new AI partnerships. How might this change things longer term?
Yeah, think about global supply chains, tech platforms. Could we be seeing the start of a fundamental reshaping of how all that works?
Something to mull over.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there for this deep dive.
That's it for today's Decode. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow, right here on Nora and Noah Decode the Day.